From the ashes of Jason Williams' recklessness, behind bars and sobered by consequence, to James Bouknight, whose bizarre, booze-fueled crash marked the end of his NBA dream. These are the stories of men undone by the bottle. No scapegoats here, no blaming the spirits. As Williams himself confessed, "I take responsibility. I've learned. It's me who was reckless." What follows is a breakdown of NBA players who found themselves in deep, dark trouble with drunk driving, their careers, and sometimes their lives forever altered. Carmelo Anthony, a name once synonymous with youthful brilliance in the NBA, found himself dimmed under the harsh glare of flashing police lights one Denver dawn, April 14, 2008. Just 23, the Nuggets' cornerstone had plummeted from the heights of hardwood glory to the depths of personal disgrace. His night, already soured by a dismal 11-point showing against the Rockets, a game he'd rather forget, spiraled further. Perhaps that on-court frustration fueled what came next, a series of choices that landed him, not on the highlight reel, but in handcuffs, marking an nadir in a career that, until then, had only pointed upward. The Denver night hadn't been kind to Carmelo Anthony. His silver Mercedes, a metallic blur, snaked erratically down Interstate 25, headlights blazing, oblivious to oncoming traffic. Blue lights flashed, pulling him over into the harsh glare of sobriety. He was alone, the sole occupant of a very expensive mistake. Field sobriety tests followed, a clumsy ballet of failure under the watchful eyes of the law. Denver, in a stroke of leniency unusual for DUI cases, opted for a ticket and release rather than a holding cell, leaving the question of his journey home a lingering mystery. A blood test was taken, its results a ticking clock counting down 2 weeks. The timing was disastrous. The Nuggets, clinging precariously to the 8th playoff seed in the Western Conference, watched their postseason hopes teeter as Anthony's indiscretion threatened to derail their entire season. The gavel fell hard. Carmelo Anthony faced the music, slapped with a DUI charge that led to probation and community service. It was a sobering encore, his second run-in with the law in just under 4 years. He addressed the court, the weight of the early Monday morning incident etched on his face, admitting the obvious. "Everybody knows why I'm here today." Carmelo Anthony, humbled before the cameras, offered a mea culpa to the Denver faithful, the Nuggets franchise, his family, and the brothers he battled alongside, admitting the incident's disruptive shadow. The Nuggets, through the measured words of VP Mark Warkentian, acknowledged the situation but remained tight-lipped. While Melo would continue to etch his name amongst the NBA's scoring elite, a similar lapse in judgment tragically derailed the trajectory of another player. October 16, 2022, a date etched in NBA infamy. In the pre-dawn gloom of a Charlotte parking garage, amidst the cold steel and echoing silence of East Brooklyn Village Avenue, a scene unfolded that would abruptly end one promising career. Police, summoned to a report of a vehicle obstructing traffic, found not just an inconvenience, but a grim tableau. James Bouknight, 22-year-old Hornets guard, slumped unconscious in the driver's seat of his idling Mercedes-Benz MG GT. The engine running, the transmission engaged in drive. A bizarre, disturbing, and ultimately career-ending DWI arrest. The tableau was unsettlingly bizarre. There, slumped in his ride, was Bouknight, cradling a Glock 23 like a misplaced child, a bag of Doritos nestled beside it. While North Carolina law winked at open carry, the cocktail of oblivion, booze, and loaded steel spelled trouble. Security hammered fruitlessly on the glass, desperate to rouse him. The cops, circling like cautious wolves, deployed a cacophony of lights, air horns, and amplified voices for a solid hour, trying to breach his alcohol-soaked slumber. Bouknight's deep slumber, unbroken by the shouted commands, hinted at a profound level of inebriation. When he finally surfaced, the scene descended into farce. Disoriented, he rummaged for food inside the vehicle, a midnight feast oblivious to the flashing lights. Then, in a move that sealed his fate, he lurched forward, scraping the police cruiser ahead, before reversing with equal lack of precision into the one behind. Officer Warren's report painted a clear picture. Glassy eyes, a potent alcoholic haze emanating from Bouknight. The depth of his impairment was confirmed by his own admission to medics. 4 shots of tequila, a dangerous cocktail before taking the wheel. James Bouknight's case is a stark tragedy. His blood registered 0.14, almost double North Carolina's legal limit of 0.08. The headline screams the grim reality. NBA's James Bouknight, arrested for driving while impaired, found unconscious in parking deck. And chillingly, the report adds that Bouknight was found with a Glock 23 and a 40mm gun. A devastating spiral, indeed. James Bouknight's early morning arrest at 1:51 a.m. for driving while impaired landed him in Mecklenburg County Jail. A $2,500 bond is ticket out. But this wasn't a simple misstep. Bouknight's driving record was a wreck in itself. Pending violations painted a picture of recklessness, clocked at 92 in a 50 zone, plus another reckless driving charge stemming from an alleged race that resulted in a 3-car pileup. Bouknight's troubles stretched back to his Yukon college days. September 2019 saw him speeding, wrecking into a street sign and another car, then fleeing on foot. The hammer fell in April 2024 when a Mecklenburg County court convicted him of driving while impaired. The report mentioned a gun, its legality unclear, though no charges were filed regarding the weapon itself. His sentence: a year's unsupervised probation, a day of community service, and an alcohol assessment. James Bouknight contested the verdict, but the Hornets cut him loose in February 2024, even before the gavel fell on his DWI case. 3 seasons, 79 games, a meager 4.8 points per game. That was it for Bouknight's NBA dream. Now, let's pivot to a case where drunk driving morphed into an utterly bizarre legal drama that had the NBA world buzzing: Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Just hours after the Pistons suffered a heartbreaking 97-96 loss to the Miami Heat on March 29, 2017, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, piloting his white 2015 Jeep Wrangler down Auburn Road, met flashing lights near Squirrel Road in Auburn Hills. The radar gun sang a 45 in a 25 zone. When the window lowered, officers noted a pungent whiff of booze. Glossy eyes met their gaze, and Pope copped to 2 shots of Hennessy, though insisting he was below the legal limit. "You're a ball player," they noted. "Yeah," he allegedly replied. "Just 2 in my damn order." "Just 2 drinks, huh? All right, what were we talking? Beer? Liquor? Wine? Oh, Hennessy. Just Hennessy, you swear? You want me to list out the rest? Because, I knew I had to drive, right?" Caldwell-Pope's attempt at the sobriety dance was, shall we say, less than stellar. The alphabet, usually a friend, became a foe, a sing-song struggle that overshot its mark. His eyes, tracking the stimulus, lacked the grace of a seasoned vet, and a heel-to-toe walk, a stumbling, bumbling affair punctuated by restarts and missteps, suggesting perhaps that gravity was having a bit too much fun. Carmelo Anthony's roadside sobriety test was a comedy of errors. He stumbled through the one-leg stand, proving utterly incapable of counting backward from 86 to 69 without skipping a digit. The preliminary breathalyzer painted a clear picture: 0.098%, flirting with the wrong side of Michigan's 0.08% line. Back at the station, the breathalyzer readings were a razor's edge. 4:02 a.m. and 4:06 a.m. clocked in at exactly 0.08%, right on the permissible limit, a near miss. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's run-in with the law unfolded with a veneer of cooperation, according to police accounts. Booked, printed, and ticketed for OWI, Caldwell-Pope eventually sidestepped the original charge, pleading guilty to lesser infractions, permitting drunk driving and careless operation of a vehicle. Caldwell-Pope caught a break when the initial charge evaporated, but the reprieve was short-lived. He was slapped with a year's probation in June 2017. Then came the twist: a Lakers contract that very summer. But the California sun didn't shine for long. Caldwell-Pope stumbled, violating his probation by flouting the Michigan court's demand for random drug and alcohol tests. What followed was a truly bizarre episode, an NBA first for the history books. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's 2017 ended with a 25-day stay at the Seal Beach Police Department Detention Center. A work release program granted him brief escapes for Lakers duties, tethered to a GPS monitor and a demanding regular breathalyzer tests. Confined within California's borders, he forfeited 4 road games. The NBA added to his troubles, suspending him for 2 games of the season's onset, a direct consequence of his drunk driving plea. Released in early January 2018, Caldwell-Pope downplayed the ordeal, labeling it a minor setback and voicing eagerness to put behind him. Caldwell-Pope, though stumbling, found his footing again, hoisting NBA trophies with the Lakers in 2020 and the Nuggets in 2023. But fortune's fickle, and the next chapter tells a different tale. For Keon Clark, the road ended not with cheers, but a resounding crash. August 4, 2013, in Danville, Illinois, became the period at the end of a long, painful sentence. 8 years behind bars, a consequence of a life slowly eroded by the relentless tide of addiction. Keon Clark's blackout wasn't just alcohol. It was a cocktail of booze, antidepressants, and anti-anxiety meds. He lost control, his car wrapping itself around a telephone pole, then flipped, ending up a mangled mess of stones throw from his front door. The cops arrived to find the classic signs: bloodshot eyes, the mumble of the inebriated. He confessed to a few too many beers, but clammed up when asked for blood or urine. Battered and bruised, Clark was lucky to walk away, though the wreck foreshadowed a far grimmer collision course. Keon Clark's 2013 DUI wasn't a singular misstep, but the crescendo of a life already off-key. The firearm found in his home a year prior, the parole violation, these were warning signs. The crash simply piled onto his legal bonfire. In December of that year, Clark faced the music in Vermilion County Circuit Court, pleading guilty to both weapons charges and the DUI. The judge handed down an 8-year sentence, 4 years for each transgression, a heavy price to pay for a life careening out of control. Keon Clark, facing the music in court, choked back tears as he confessed, I messed up. Big time. Gotta own that. Even staring down an 8-year stretch, a flicker of hope remained. To those who stood by him, he offered a tempered reassurance. Could have been worse, you know? Gonna be better. Keon Clark's demons ran deep, fueled by a relentless addiction. The truth exploded in a 2007 courtroom. He'd never played a game sober, downing half a pint, even a full pint, of gin daily, even at halftime. From high school through his 1998 to 2004 NBA run, the bottle held him captive. He traded the court for a cell, serving 4 of an 8-year sentence before being released in 2017 for good behavior. In a twist, Clark later called prison transformative, the best education he'd ever received, finally allowing him to focus on sobriety. Keon Clark, however, didn't let the bars define him. From 2013 to 2017, he transformed his cell into a sanctuary of self-improvement. Yoga, philosophy, public speaking, prison became his unexpected classroom. He emerged a changed man, viewing those years as a vital rebuild. Then came Tyler Dorsey, a rookie whose bright future flickered under the harsh glare of a DUI. Early on a Saturday in May 2018, Eugene police noticed Dorsey cruising down Broadway in his Land Rover. Lights off, unknowingly setting off a chain reaction that would forever impact his trajectory. Tyler Dorsey's rookie season took a sharp detour onto a Git Street, where his car performed a hesitant dance of starts and stops. The officers arrived, their suspicions rising faster than Dorsey's blood alcohol level. An open container offered silent testimony from the passenger floorboard, confirming their fears. The arrest followed swiftly. DUI, driving without lights, and that incriminating open container. The address would forever be etched in the narrative of a promising career derailed. Eugene, once a triumphant stage for Dorsey's Oregon Ducks, the site of a Final Four run in 17, morphed into a stark tableau of misfortune. A homecoming meant for revelry turned sour, a brutal lesson in how swiftly fortunes can plummet. Released on $590 bail, Dorsey left behind a city buzzing with whispers. Back in Atlanta, the Hawks issued a guarded statement, acknowledging the incident with cautious words about Tyler Dorsey's weekend misadventure in Eugene. The investigation continues, details still emerging. Out of deference to the unfolding legal proceedings, silence is our only statement for now. This DUI hit hard, especially since Dorsey was barely off the starting blocks in his pro career. Born in Pasadena, California, back in '96, he was just 22 when it happened, fresh off his rookie year with the Hawks, 56 games under his belt. But he never bounced back. The NBA chapters closed for him. The Hawks were flying through some seriously turbulent air back then. It wasn't just Dorsey making headlines. A whole flock of Hawks-related figures were caught in legal crosswinds. Coach Budenholzer's DUI in 13, Plumlee's weed, Schroeder's battery beef, Bembry's need for speed. It painted a picture. A picture suggesting a team, culture, perhaps not preaching the gospel of responsible choices. Like Dorsey before him, the next player's trajectory took a nosedive, never recovering, his NBA dream ultimately grounded. Enter Devonte Graham. On a summer night in July 2022, around 2:39 a.m., the Pelicans guard made a fateful choice, one that would cast a long shadow over his career. For Devonte Graham, the whistle blew on a Raleigh night. Cruising through familiar streets, the speedometer crept past the limit, 63 in a 40 zone, a transgression noticed by the long arm of the North Carolina State Highway Patrol. What started as a simple speeding ticket veered sharply off course when officers detected the telltale signs of inebriation. A breathalyzer confirmed their suspicions, registering a BAC of 0.11, well above the state's 0.08 threshold. Handcuffed and booked into the Wake County Detention Center, Graham now faced charges of DWI and speeding, a detour that threatened to derail his burgeoning career. For Devonte Graham, a $3,000 unsecured bond bought him temporary freedom after his DWI arrest, setting a July 2022 court date. It was a stark tumble for a player who'd clawed his way from undrafted obscurity to a valuable asset on several NBA rosters. The wheels of justice turned slowly, but inexorably. By June 2023, Graham copped to a misdemeanor DWI charge, the speeding violation vanishing as part of the agreement. Devonte Graham's DWI landed him a year of unsupervised probation, plus a bill for nearly $400 in fines and fees. Though initially facing a 21-day jail sentence, it was ultimately suspended. The NBA didn't let it slide either. They benched Graham, then with the Spurs, for 2 games without pay, citing his violation of North Carolina law. This suspension was set to kick in at the start of the following season, whenever Graham was eligible to suit up. Devonte Graham's journey took an unfortunate detour. Traded to the San Antonio Spurs mid-season from the Pelicans in a package that included Josh Richardson, he initially showed promise, averaging 13 points and 4 assists in his brief stint. But the shadow of his DWI arrest lengthened, dimming his star. While he suited up for 23 games in the subsequent season, his impact was muted, a pale imitation of his earlier contributions, averaging a mere 5 points, 2 assists, and barely a rebound. a stark reminder of how off-court issues can derail even the most promising careers. Devonte Graham's stumble after his DWI ultimately led him far from the NBA court. By 2024, the Spurs shipped him off to Charlotte for a second-round pick, only to be cut loose. His NBA dream faded as he found himself playing for Crvena Zvezda in Serbia's ABA and Euro leagues. Now, shifting gears to a case that reverberated through the sports world, we turn to Jason Kidd. On a July night in 2012, around 1:56 a.m., the legendary point guard's life took a sharp, unexpected turn when he wrecked his car in the wealthy Hamptons community of Watermill, New York. Jason Kidd, fresh off a Big Knicks contract, found his Cadillac Escalade wrapped around a telephone pole just a mile and a half from his vacation place. The impact sheared the pole clean in two, sending the luxury SUV careening into the woods, leaving a trail of splintered trees. The Escalade's front end was a mangled mess, a crumpled hood and a passenger wheel ripped clean off. The wreck was the ugly climax of a night that had clearly gone sideways. Before his vehicular demolition derby, Kidd had been at a charity event. Jason Kidd, fresh from a Hamptons charity gala benefiting foster kids, apparently traded goodwill for Grey Goose. Witnesses placed him at SL East, a Southampton hotspot, allegedly deep in the throes of vodka-fueled revelry. The whispers painted a vivid picture. Kidd, beyond tipsy, reportedly needing assistance, perhaps even a carry, out of the club in the early morning hours. Jason Kidd, fresh off inking a Knicks deal, ignored the pleas of his companions and climbed behind the wheel. Less than an hour later, metal met metal. The scene greeted first responders. Kidd, alone in the wreckage, thankfully with only minor injuries. But the signs were unmistakable. Glassy eyes, slurred words, the telltale reek. Kidd was, by all accounts, hammered. He swayed on unsteady legs, reportedly claiming amnesia about the crash, strangely devoid of pain. The promise of New York hung heavy in the intoxicated air. Jason Kidd, fresh off signing with the Knicks, refused both breathalyzer and blood tests, muddying the waters for prosecutors. Still, based on the officer's eyewitness account of his inebriated state, Kidd was cuffed and charged with misdemeanor DWI. Hauled into Southampton Town Justice Court on July 15, 2012, he entered a not guilty plea and walked free without posting bail. The aftermath left people wondering if Kidd's party days are behind him. The pattern repeats, a broken record spinning. Trouble everywhere, consequences everywhere, downfall everywhere. The messy aftermath of Jason Kidd's DWI finally found some order on July 16, 2013. He copped a plea in Southampton Town Court, admitting guilt to a misdemeanor DWI. A deal? Interim probation and a chance to preach. 2 high school talks on Long Island about the perils of drunk driving, all recorded and shared. In court, Kidd confessed to downing 3, maybe 4, drinks that fateful night. Judge Andrea Schiavone didn't mince words, laying it on thick. You could have been a goner, Mr. Kidd. Or worse, taken someone else with you. Her hope that he'd wake up grateful every single morning. If he kept his nose clean with the community service, come September 30th, 2013, the charge would drop to a mere driving while impaired. Oh, and his license? Gone for 3 months, just for good measure. Jason Kidd, fortunate enough to avoid jail despite his DWI, dutifully completed his community service, leading to a reduced charge. The timing of the incident couldn't have been worse. At 39, Kidd had just inked a lucrative 3-year deal with the Knicks, a $9.5 million gamble on a veteran. The league, however, wasn't so forgiving, suspending him for the first 2 games of the 2013-14 season. Irony hung heavy, as Kidd, fresh off his retirement in June of 2013, was now the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets, punished for a past transgression. Jason Kidd had the Nets' backing, with GM Billy King affirming his accountability and potential for growth. Similarly, the next star's indiscretion briefly eclipsed an otherwise stellar career. Enter Scottie Pippen. In the wee hours of April 22, 1999, the Chicago Bulls icon found himself cuffed in downtown Houston. The arrest followed shortly. After a Rockets defeat against the Mavericks, a 109-95 loss that added insult to injury for Pippen's already troubled 1999 season. Scottie Pippen, fresh off his legendary Bulls run and now a Rocket at 33, was already having a nightmare of season. That night was particularly brutal, a measly 4 points, getting torched on D. Then came the flashing lights. A Houston cop snagged Pippen's Mercedes for blowing a red light, cutting through traffic like he owned the road. Smelling booze, the officer called in the DWI squad. Pippen wobbled through the field sobriety test, sealing his fate. He refused the breathalyzer, adding insult to injury. It was a bad year for Pippen, and this was just another chapter. Scottie Pippen's Houston WI arrest in 1999 added another layer to an already turbulent season. Texas law dictates an automatic license suspension for breathalyzer refusal, but Pippen reportedly cooperated fully with the authorities. Booked on a misdemeanor DWI charge, he posted a $500 bond and was out of jail before sunrise, having spent a mere 6 hours in custody. The police report revealed that Pippen had been at Jones Bar downtown with Charles Barkley and Matt Maloney after a game. though whether this contributed to the DWI suspicion remains ambiguous. After Scottie Pippen's DWI arrest, the Houston Rockets circled the wagons. Coach Rudy Tomjanovich, ever the diplomat, hoped it wouldn't derail the team, stating they wouldn't jump to conclusions until the facts were clear. Teammate Charles Barkley offered unwavering support, dismissing the incident as something that happened, and pledged allegiance to Pippen. This happened to also occur during Pippen's turbulent 1999 NBA season. Even Scottie Pippen's late-night DWI stop probably wasn't a solo act. One imagines the ribbing from teammates. Barkley, no doubt, leading the charge with playground taunts. Pippen, last call. Luckily for Pippen, the legal drama wrapped up fast. On May 14, 1999, those DWI charges vanished, thanks to Judge Sherman Ross in Harris County. It wasn't a great season for Pippen, on or off the court. Scottie Pippen's DWI arrest hit a dead end. Harris County's DA saw no path to conviction, citing weak evidence and applicable laws. Lawyer Rusty Hardin echoed Pippen's claim of sobriety, highlighting the absence of a breathalyzer and flimsy field sobriety test results. Case dismissed. This marked arrest number 3 for Pippen. Previously, a 1994 gun possession charge also vanished, deemed the result of an illegal search. While charges were dismissed, the 1999 season for Pippen remained challenging beyond this legal hurdle. For Scottie Pippen, 99 was a year to forget, and not just because of that DWI buzzkill. Fresh off his Bulls dynasty gig, he was trying to find his feet on a new squad, but his game just wasn't singing like it used to. The DWI thing just piled onto the heap of a seriously off year for the 6-time champ. Speaking of Bulls legends, next up is Pippen's old running buddy, a guy whose off-court life was a wilder ride than any rebound scrum, Dennis Rodman. All those run-ins with the law and alcohol, just part of the same untamed story he was writing on and off the court. Dennis Rodman, a name synonymous with rebounds and, unfortunately, reckless indulgence, carved a deep groove in the legal system, spanning almost 20 years, with his repeated drunken escapades. He emerges as one of the NBA's most persistent offenders behind the wheel. A prime example, December 22, 1999. Fresh from South Coast Plaza's glitter, Rodman piloted his Bentley right into trouble, earning himself an arrest for DUI and driving sans a valid California license. His blood registered a staggering 0.15%, almost double the state's 0.08% limit. By July 2000, via his lawyer Paul Meyer, Rodman copped to misdemeanor charges of DUI and unlicensed driving, facing roughly $2,000 in fines, fees, and a mandated 3-month alcohol education course. Dennis Rodman, never one to shy away from headlines, voluntarily checked himself into rehab before even facing the music. But sobriety proved elusive. In October of 2003, he was back in the news, this time for wrecking a borrowed motorcycle outside his favorite strip club. Witnesses painted a picture of carnage, bloody shins, maybe a busted ankle. His agent, Darren Prince, spun a different tale, claiming it was just a couple of drinks, nothing more, and he was heading back for NBA training down in Newport Beach. The law, however, wasn't buying it, handing Rodman a misdemeanor summons and a date in court. Dennis Rodman's dance with the bottle continued after his basketball career. Post-arrest, he checked himself into rehab, marking a month of sobriety by late 2003. Yet, the grip of alcohol proved tenacious. By April 2004, a Vegas DUI landed him a grand fine and a month confined to his home. The road seemed to offer no escape either. In July 2016, Rodman was caught driving against traffic on Interstate 5, his SUV a rogue northbound vessel in the southbound lane at midnight. Dennis Rodman's reckless driving nearly caused a head-on collision, sending a BMW careening into a divider. He allegedly fled after a brief, unproductive exchange, then misled the police about his location. Orange County hit him with 4 misdemeanors: hit and run, driving across a divider, driving unlicensed, and giving false information. He copped to 3 charges, receiving 3 years of probation, 30 hours of community service, and restitution. The cycle continued with another traffic stop in January 2018 around 11 p.m., highlighting a pattern that dogged him. In Newport Beach, along the 4500 block of West Coast Highway, Pippen's brush with the law unfolded after failing sobriety tests, his breathalyzer revealing a blood alcohol content of 0.21%, almost triple California's legal limit. In March 2018, before the Orange County Superior Court, he admitted guilt, receiving 3 years of informal probation, alongside a 9-month alcohol program and a $390 fine. Facing a possible 90-day stint behind bars, contingent on adhering to probation, Rodman had already clocked 30 days in rehab, battling his demons. He mused, "It's the same for us entertainers. Gotta keep your head screwed on, but also ditch the triggers that send you reaching for the bottle." First day was rough, second day in the media glare. So far, so good. Dennis Rodman, despite the flashing lights and repeated sirens, couldn't outrun his own demons. His lawyer, Paul Meyer, painted a picture of progress. Dennis is taking his sobriety seriously, making real strides. But Rodman's story is a stark reminder. Addiction isn't a buzzer beater you can block. It clung to him, on and off the court, a shadow double-teaming his every move. The cycle of arrests, rehab, and court dates painted a grim truth. Addiction doesn't always heed the gavel slam. Now, consider Jason Williams, whose drunk driving tale takes a darker turn. A chilling example of NBA stars facing consequences far exceeding a mere DUI, culminating in a lengthy prison sentence. The city that never sleeps nearly claimed Jason Kidd that January morning in 2010. Around 3:15 a.m., his black Mercedes SUV became a projectile launched from the Franklin D. Roosevelt Drive, near East 18th. Careening across lanes of oncoming traffic, Kidd's vehicle met a tree with brutal force after leaving the highway exit ramp. Prosecutors noted the impact shattered the windshield, leaving Kidd with a head laceration. He was rushed to Bellevue Hospital with minor injuries, a stark reminder of a night where fate and poor judgment collided. The aftermath found Jason Kidd in the passenger seat, a flimsy alibi about a vanished driver hanging in the air. But the story crumbled under the weight of surveillance and eyewitness accounts. He'd been the sole occupant behind the wheel. He balked at a roadside sobriety test, but the blood draw at Bellevue Hospital painted a stark picture. A BAC of 0.19, twice the legal threshold. A remorseful admission reportedly surfaced at the hospital, Kidd uttering, "I'm sorry for causing trouble." Jason Williams' NBA story took a dark turn with a DWI arrest in New York. A misdemeanor that carried surprising weight. In August 2010, he faced the music, pleading guilty in a Manhattan court. The gavel fell, sentencing him to a year behind bars, the maximum for the offense. But this wasn't a clean slate. This sentence was stacked on top of the 5-year prison term he was already serving in New Jersey, a consequence of the tragic 2002 accidental shooting of limousine driver Custis Gus Christoph. The weight of my choices rests squarely on my shoulders. I won't hide behind the bottle. The fault lies with my recklessness. To the Christoph family, I offer my deepest apologies for the pain I've caused. Williams, haunted by his demons, found himself facing a reckoning. A moment of drunken recklessness at home snowballed into a desperate cover-up, tragically claiming a life. Remorse etched on his face in court. He offered himself as a symbol. It seems excessive, but if it stops even one drunk driver, it's worth it. I'll be the poster child if it saves lives. The date was January 26, 2016. The scene, a twisting county road in upstate New York. Behind the wheel of a Jeep Wrangler, Williams lost control, the vehicle slamming into a utility pole, flipping violently. Jason Williams claimed a deer darted into his path, forcing the swerve. But Sullivan County deputies saw a different picture. Williams unsteady on his feet, words slurred, failing the roadside sobriety test. He was alone in the wrecked car, found inside by the responding officers. A trip to Catskill Regional Medical Center followed from minor injuries and a blood test. The charge, misdemeanor DWI, with a court date looming in Delaware on March 23, 2016. Jason Williams' story is a stark reminder. His battle with the bottle fueled more than just bad decisions. By 2016, the consequences of his past, the shadow of the 2002 shooting, the sting of the 2010 DWI, had already left their mark. This wasn't just a relapse. It was a continuation of a deeper struggle. As he confessed to 60 Minute Sports, he sought refuge in a Florida rehab, a fragile shield against the demons of addiction.